Take 9 for this video. I've had some serious issues. Okay, so today we're not rocking the hat, got the bald head going. That thing's really starting to shine. It's amazing what happens as you get older. Anyway, I'm hoping somebody's getting some useful information out of the videos. So the last video I posted was about using the mousetrap rig. So I was laying around, I was thinking, I was like, what should I talk about? I don't even know what to talk about. Like sometimes you know all this stuff, but you don't know where to go. And I was thinking, a lot of people ask me, what is my favorite bait? Or what bait should I use to catch a 12-foot tiger? I mean, it sounds like a reasonably good question if there was a secret answer to it, but there's not. The answer is a lot more in depth than just using a bait. It's more about putting the bait in the right location at the right time. The right depth of water. What I use in my area might be a great bait and might not be a great bait in your area. So, but we'll try to answer it. Now, I can tell you that I've caught 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 tigers, 12 foot or better. And I've been a part of, in my camps, several more. And the majority of them have come on southern stingray, be number 1. Number 2 would be cow nose. Number 3 would be black tip shark. So then if we move that number down to 11 foot, that's when things really get crazy because, it's jack, crevalle, amberjack, black drum, all kind of stuff, So what it's really about is being a good fisherman. So when you get to the beach and the first thing everybody wants to do is bomb a bait way out there, into the abyss, because the further out, the better it is, Well, that's not always the case. So a lot of guys adjust to this by using a bunch of rods. I'm not a fan of that. I think 3 rods is the most I want anywhere close to me. So what I do is put one on the edges, like the first real gut, past the last sandbar, or right on top of the sandbar, really is where I like to put it, where the last sandbar that's falling into the deep water, if your bait's in that area. Because predators, apex predators included, tiger sharks, like to use edges to hunt. So when they come in on that sandbar and kind of using that to hunt at night, and your bait's sitting there, bam, you got him. And then the one that I put well past that sandbar is not just placed out in the middle of anywhere, it's placed where the rip currents go. And those rip currents are created by tidal movement. So they're pretty easy to find if you have a calm day. And if you fish an area enough, you know about where they are. But if you watch your water, whenever the tide is moving one way or the other, you can quickly find those. If you see a bunch of porpoises and dolphins and pelicans diving and stingrays, manta rays jumping out of the water, things like that, just pay attention and say, hey, that's where my bait needs to be. That's where the activity is for whatever reason. Okay, so once we get past that, we're assuming all your tackle and gear and everything is prepared to catch a giant fish. If you're asking me about catching a 12-foot fish, I'm assuming you have the tackle to do so. Okay, let's don't go out there and try to catch 12-footer with a 6-aught or a 9-aught or 30-wide. Somebody's gonna say, I caught a 30-wide, I caught a 12-footer on 30. I know it happens, but let's don't target those fish with that. Let's get the right gear. Okay, so the secret to the bait is, 1, the right time of year. So if all the cow noses are migrating one way or another, obviously the sharks are going to focus on that. If it's the time of the year where all the southern rays are sitting in the surf and hanging out, people are stepping on them, and that's the bait you need to be using. If if there's something going on, like you have a bunch of Jack Crevalles running the beach or something, that'd be a great beach to use. I mean, a great bait to use. And it gets colder, and all you can catch is a black drum or a sheep's head. It's a great bait to use. That's what they're feeding on. This is not Discovery Channel. Just because you put a bait out in the water with blood coming out of it doesn't mean sharks are going to swim from 2 miles away. It just doesn't happen. So you want the bait in the path of the fish within, a reasonable distance. I mean, you just picture a cone off the fish, and he'll go that way, he'll go that way. Unless he's absolutely starving, he might swim a long ways. But I don't feel like they do. I feel like it has to be in the general path. I've seen enough lines in the water where at 500 yards, the bait's getting hit. And if you put another line at 500 yards, it's getting hit. But at 300, they're not. Or at 600, they're not. So anyway, getting off track a little bit. But bait. If you think about what you want to catch, if you really want to catch just a big tiger shark, you want to put a bait in the water that nothing else wants to eat. So the bait can be there when the tiger shark swims by to eat it. And a big tiger shark will eat a bait that he even kind of likes. He's big. He's expending a tremendous amount of energy. He has to eat. So one of my favorite baits is like a big stingray head. Cut a little meat out around the head, and you got this big chunk of cartilage bone like that nothing else can get its mouth over to chew and cut on. So they'll eat it. If they can get their mouth around it, they'll eat it. Big cow noses, that head part is on a big cow nose is, thick. Big drum, the heads, amberjack, Jack Crevalles, things like that. That big, nasty, bony part of that the majority of the other fish don't eat. In other words, you're trying to keep black tips and 6-foot bulls and whatever's your pest of a fish on your big baits off your bait, and those baits will hang out in the water longer and give you a better opportunity to catch them. A lot of times I cut baits in half. Like big cow noses, I'll cut them in half. Put you a lot of meat out there. But you have to sit through a lot of times other sharks taking bites off of that bait until the right fish comes along. So back in the day, you can't use them anymore, by the way. You can't use shark for bait anymore, the way I interpret the regulations. So it's great bait. And this is a great example of things. Back in the day, we used to catch a 4 or 5 foot black tip, cut the tail off, put the hook in it, run it out there, and catch one fish on it. A lot of times it's a bull shark. Because what's the bull shark going to eat? He's going to eat the tail end of the bait. Bam. So when they're feeding on black tips, you can make 4, 5, 6 baits out of that fish. That head part being the premium for a big giant tiger, because most of the other sharks will leave the head and the jaw alone, but that big tiger comes along and it doesn't even bother him. He eats it. So what I'm saying is just try to put baits in the water that nothing else will eat. Not because they're 50 pounds, but because they're just thick, bony, kind of baits. Another thing that's been very successful for me is allow my baits to ripen up a little bit before I put them in the water. A lot of times I have an old cooler, I'll put them in, no ice for a day, or during the day and then put it in the water at night, or bury it in the sand while I'm fishing during the day and then put it out whenever I feel is right. So, that's a huge part of confidence for me. Does it make a difference? I don't know. And the other thing, one of the reasons like rays and sharks are so good is because they don't get crabbed out or other fish don't eat them, and they just stay on the hook. So, if you was trying to use a bonita in my area in June, it lasts about an hour on the hook. So that fish got to swim by within the first 30 minutes that you put it out there. It's just not a high percentage bait. So, again, what I'm suggesting makes for long, quiet nights, many of them. So if you like a lot of action and stuff, you might want to put out a couple, 3 other rods with, the softer parts of the baits on them. Like the midsection of a jack or the tail end of a jack or a wing off a ray. And that will make, you'll get more hits. And you may catch a giant on it. I'm not saying you won't catch a giant on it, because we all know what they say, elephants like peanuts too, So, you never know when you're fishing. But there are things you can do to put the percentage in your favor. So give it a try. Let me know what you think in the comments, if any of that even made sense. And I know I should have like pictures to load up and stuff, but I'm just figuring all this out again. So bear with me and let me know what you want me to talk about in the next video. All right. Wishing everybody good luck on the beach, and y'all make sure and let me know what's happening.